Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We are back to another week. It's actually the closing of July. This is the last Monday of July. So, welcome back to another live with me, your favorite nonprofit strategist, Asia Nasir, founder of Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, which is my consulting firm, which helps aspiring founders and existing founders that run nonprofit organizations to fulfill their missions in real time. So, yeah, welcome back to another Monday where I share nonprofit content for things for you to think about, reconsider, reevaluate, redo, re-implement, all of that good stuff to help your nonprofit organization to be able to function in a way that's going to be productive, going to be impactful, which is the theme of this year. Is just being really, really impactful. So all the information that I share each and every Monday is always about helping your nonprofit organization truly be impactful in the communities that you're looking to serve. So I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. I had an amazing weekend. So I hope everyone had a beautiful weekend, time to rejuvenate, time to just have a good time, with family and friends or just by yourself, just to be able to recoup and be able to start this week fresh. And so I'm here to share some additional content with you that I think is extremely important, not just for especially, startup nonprofits, but this information that we're going to be talking about today is also really important for existing nonprofit organizations, because sometimes we're struggling, and there's usually something that we got to kind of have to go back to in order to reevaluate and redo in order to get back on track. So today what I'm going to be talking about is about the organizational bylaws, and how strong your bylaws are is going to empower your nonprofit organization. It's either your bylaws is either going to help you to be successful, or it's going to be your downfall. And for a lot of especially grassroots nonprofits, I find that a lot of times they're not even aware of what bylaws are, or if they do have them, they only have them because they know it's a requirement in order to have a nonprofit, but they really don't know what it entails. And so they have no clue on how to implement it in order to help their organization be able to function in a way that it should for maximum, results, maximum performance. And that, and then for those that I find that with, it's like clue number one as to why your nonprofit organization is struggling. So today I'm going to share 5 different reasons why your organization bylaws is not being implemented, or what's not in it, what's not being accounted for, and then some things that why it's so important to make sure you revisit those things to help you get back on track. And for those just starting, for you to do it the right way starting off, because all of these different things are the foundation of your organization. And as we know, anything built on a weak foundation is going to eventually crumble, and anything built on a strong foundation is going to continue to build, expand, and grow. And that's what you want your nonprofit organization to do. So let's get back to the basics, and let's get right into how strong your bylaws are, how to create strong bylaws in order to empower your nonprofit organization for maximum performance. So strategy number 1 on how to create a strong, how to implement and make your bylaws strong, and why it's important is, first and foremost, what it does is your bylaws creates a clear governance structure, like how your organization is to run. So I find this, and I say this over and over again, and you'll hear me in several of my videos, is your nonprofit organization is a business. It is a business. And a lot of times we think because it's a charitable organization, it doesn't need to be run as a business. So when you talk about a for-profit business, when you go to a job or you just start a job, what do they always have you do first? They have you sit at an orientation, and they provide you their code of conduct. Their code of conduct tells you all of their rules and regulations, and how they structure their business. This is what you need to fall in line with, and this is what we have come up with to make sure that each and every individual from top to first, last hired, everybody's on the same page and everybody is following these guidelines in order to have maximal performance. The same has to be done for your nonprofit organization. If you have a nonprofit organization, you have to create a clear structure, a governance of how your nonprofit is going to be run. So you have different board of directors. Some of those board of directors have roles. They're officers within your organization, which would be your president, your vice president, your treasurer, your secretary, right? Those are, not only are they decision makers and they carry the load of, what board of directors do, but they have an additional role and responsibilities that are specific to their officer position. The bylaw should have that, what it entails, who comes in, what are they responsible for? So that way there's a level of accountability. What I find in a lot of cases where nonprofits are struggling is because their board of directors they have the names, they have the number of people. However, they don't have what's required and what the responsibilities are of these individuals. So no one is being held accountable. And then there's a level of resentment that's going on because the founder or the executive director is expecting a certain performance, and yet the individuals are not aware of what that performance is. And so everyone is frustrated, because there's an expectation that has not been articulated, much less being able to see if a person has the capability of being able to honor those roles. So the structure gives everyone that accountability factor. Everyone knows, kind of like everyone stays in their lane. I know what I'm responsible for. I know what I'm responsible for. And if everyone comes together to be able to create, what they're supposed to create and what they're supposed to contribute to the organization, everything runs smooth. So this is very, very important, especially when you're starting off. Everyone knows what their responsibilities are. Second, if you have an existing organization and you find that, we're struggling all the time, board of directors meetings are very, chaotic, our meetings are not, productive. This could be the reason why, is because no one knows what their roles are. No one knows what they're responsible for. So you're kind of doing, putting out fires where they really shouldn't have to be putting out fires. It's just a level of accountability where people are now stepping into their roles and doing what's required. So that's how, if you have that, in your bylaws, what the roles are, responsibilities and duties, there's a level of accountability. And for me, in my nonprofit, what I do is I make them sign a membership agreement, officer agreement, that everyone understands that they have read and understood the bylaws and their roles, and that they are in agreement that this is what they're going to be doing. Why? Because if there's ever a time when that person is not performing or not, meeting expectations, we can go back to the bylaws that they indicated that they read and understood, the agreement that they signed, and say, hey, what's happening? What's going on? Has something changed for you? And if so, do we need to make changes within the organization? So that way, when you're putting out fires, it's not at the board meetings, it's a separate conversation that you're having in order to make sure that the person either understands what their role is and then step up and step into their role, or they sit up here and say, look, yes, things have changed and I need to move, and now we move, but everyone knows what their roles are and what their responsibilities are. So that's number one. Number two is, when you have strong bylaws, this ensures your legal compliance. See, this is something that the IRS absolutely requires from every nonprofit organization. You cannot get your 501c3 unless you have your bylaws in place. There are certain things that you have to have before you can even ask for your 501c3. So it's really important that you know what that is. So the legal compliance aspect of it is when you have a nonprofit, there is an expectation that the IRS has that you are going to have meetings, consistent meetings that you're meeting, whether it's once a month, whether it's quarterly. They want to know that your board is meeting, so everyone is at the same page and everyone knows what's going on. So that's being in compliance. Your voting procedure, that needs to be in your bylaws as well. How are we voting? Is this a majority vote or is this a unanimous decision? So that way there's never, I feel like my vote wasn't counted, or I feel like this, it's just kind of like at the seat of your pants, we make decisions. No, absolutely not. And another big piece to your nonprofit bylaws is conflict of interest. How do we handle conflicts of interest? What is the procedure in which we handle that? So that way, again, everybody's on the same page. These are things that are specific. It's actually even on the 501c3 application. When it comes to the conflict of interest, there's a specific question that it asks: is there a procedure in place to handle conflict resolution, conflicts of interest? So it's really important that you have these things in your bylaws. So whether you are not there or the president is not there, there's still a way in which we do things. There's a chain of command. There is a procedure, a process in place that we each follow each and every time we come up, with this. Every time we have a meeting, if there's inclement weather and you meet every month, well, then now do we have a virtual meeting? But we still have to be in legal compliance in order for us to retain our 501c3 status. Because again, the IRS can choose at any given time to audit a nonprofit organization. If you are not legally complying with these things, they can revoke your 501c3. They can actually take it away, which is something you don't want to do. You don't want to lose your tax exempt status. And this builds credibility within the internal infrastructure of your organization. So when you're asking your board members, hey, let's raise money, we're going to do this, we're going to, whatever direction it is that your organization is taking as it relates to collaborations, expanding programs, expanding, your reach or whatever, if there is credibility that is built within the nonprofit organization, now they're more apt to support. They're more apt to, do fundraisers. They're more apt to, reach out to their friends and colleagues and say, yes, support this nonprofit organization because you are running it and are in compliance and are running it like a business, which is exactly what your nonprofit is. It's a business. So third thing that you want to make sure that in order to create, and why it's so important to have strong bylaws, is because this kind of goes into what we were just talking about, and this is conflict resolution. If you're not careful, and I've been a board member of an organization that I had to resign from because it just seemed like every time we met, it was just like a fight fest. Everybody's fighting, everybody's disagreeing. There was no harmony. It was not a harmonious situation, right? When you have strong bylaws, it promotes a harmonious environment. It doesn't create a hostile environment. What you want, especially from a volunteer perspective, because your board of directors are volunteer, if they're coming to a place, they're leaving their home, they're actually leaving straight from work, maybe to go to a board meeting or to sit virtually on a board meeting, they're still on go. So for them to volunteer to do that, you want to create a harmonious situation. So if there's a thing in place of this is how we handle conflict resolution, this is how often we meet. So we meet every last, Friday of the month, every first of the month, whatever it is that you're doing. You also have your voting system. If everyone knows what it is, then there's no need to argue about anything. This is what it is. This is what our procedures are. This is how we handle conflict. This is how we do things. This is how we handle attendance. If you exceed a certain number of attendance, now there's an understanding of this is why we have to have this conversation. And if it gets to the point where you have to vote someone off, now there is, again, a system in place, a procedure in place because of your bylaws to be able to keep things cohesive and harmonious, so that way we can keep moving on and not stuck in one place. Because what happens is, if you get stuck in one place, you're no longer productive. You're not focusing on the mission anymore. You're not focusing on furthering the mission. You're just putting out fires, unnecessary fires, because your bylaws should already have this information of how we do things. You're either in compliance or you're not in compliance. You either want to be a part of what we're doing here or you don't. And that way we can have a conversation about that and we can move forward, right? No matter how it goes, either you're in or you're out, right? So it's the same thing. It's the same process, right? So conflict resolution, it eliminates that. It allows your board meetings to be productive. It allows your board meetings to be about whatever's on the itinerary that needs to further the mission. That's what we're here for. How we're going to produce more funding sources, right? That's important. Second thing is, whatever decision makers, what are the committees doing? Who's responsible for what? That way we're moving forward and we're being productive and we're having productive conversations in order for your organization to be impactful. And now your board of directors feel like they're not spinning their wheels, wasting their time. They're actually utilizing their time for something bigger than themselves and for the benefit and the service of the community. And that's what it's all about. We're not volunteering to be sitting here arguing. It's like, if I'm going to volunteer my time, I want to be somewhere where it's going to be, we're doing things efficiently, as well as we're doing things that's going to be productive and bringing about positive impact. So that's one of the reasons that, having strong bylaws, it eliminates conflict resolution. It's a form of conflict resolution because you don't have conflict because everyone knows what it is. It's in the bylaws, right? Another reason why you need to have strong bylaws is because it helps with decision making. It helps with decision making. This is what we decide on. So are we using this person? Are we using this venue? Are we voting for this person to come in? Are we voting for this person to come out? Are we voting for someone else to take on an officer position? We know what the decision makers are, and we know that, it's either, again, majority vote or it's unanimous decision. Whatever your organization decides that you feel works best for you, that's what you need to focus on. So it helps with being able to make decisions fairly quickly because you know the voting system, you know how we do things, and now it just allows us, and again, it streamlines the process in order for your organization to be productive. You don't want to be sitting here for 2 hours trying to make a decision. We know what we're voting for. It should already be on the itinerary that this is something that we're going to be voting for. So if there's information that needed to be provided, it's been provided to them. So now when we sit down, or we're going to spend some time on that and then move into the decision-making aspect of it. That's one of the major roles of a board of director, is that they are the decision makers of your organization. So you create, again, an environment where they're able to make decisions, and that where they're able to streamline that and moving on. So that's why in your bylaws, the voting system should be in there, so that way everyone knows that even if it's not a unanimous decision, if it's majority vote, then that's what the majority vote is, and this is where we're going. So even if it doesn't align with you, you know that this is the majority, and so of course, based on the bylaws, this is the direction in which we're going. And this is why I always recommend having odd numbers for your board, having 3, 5, 7, 9, having odd numbers, because there's always going to be a tiebreaker. If you have even numbers and if there's 4 here and 4 here, you need a tiebreaker. So if you have, especially if you're using majority vote, you want to have odd numbers for your board of directors, so that way there's always that tiebreaker, so that way it's going to be a majority yay or nay. So that's the other reason why bylaws are so important, because it allows you to be able to be strategic in your decision making. Okay, so the other reason why having strong bylaws empowers your nonprofit organization, it provides continuity. It provides consistency, the way you operate in things. And this is especially important when you're in transition, when you have board members that are leaving because their term is up, or unexpectedly someone has to leave, whether voluntary or involuntary. There's a transition period, and there's a lot of, shake up and turmoil when it comes to, or kind of like a lag. A lot of nonprofit organizations in that transition period, they go through a lag in productivity because they don't have consistency. Your bylaws is your conduit to having consistency in your organization, even in transition, because everyone knows what they're responsible for. Everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. So it allows someone to just step into their role and to be able to perform immediately, and to just kind of go with the flow with everyone else and be able to, start providing their perspectives and, contributions to the nonprofit. So this is really important because consistency is what people like. It's that safety. It's like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This, it's not this hit and miss. 1 minute we make decisions this way, 1 minute we make decisions that way. No, there's a consistency in how we do things. Even if it's to change something, the process in which we do it to change is exactly the same. So it's very important that your organization maintains strong bylaws, because what it does is it allows that consistency to help people feel comfortable that they are a part of something and that this is the way they do it. There's a foundation, there's a process and system in place. Every successful business, I don't care whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, if you have a process or system in place, it goes very well for your business. It goes very well. So these are all of the reasons, the 5 reasons that having a strong bylaws empowers your nonprofit. This allows you to be able to apply for grants. There's a lot of grant applications now that ask about your board of directors. Who's on your board? What position do they play? What ethnicity, the diversity of your nonprofit. You being able to do these things and be able to be on board, this allows you to do. There's even some grant applications that asked to speak to one of your board members. Why do they do this? Is because they want to know that everyone's on the same page, that when we give you money, everyone's on the same page, that they can actually repeat and support what it is that you told us in the grant application, independent of speaking to you. So having strong bylaws, infrastructure, a consistency, a process and system in place allows that to make that a very easy thing for you to be able to articulate in a grant application as it relates to your board and how you make decisions and so forth. So, or you're asking for corporate sponsorships. These are the things that are very important. So if you are already doing these things because of your bylaws, this just gives credibility to your nonprofit organization that you are running it the way a nonprofit organization is supposed to be run. This gives credibility to those that are looking to give money, that this is not an individual thing, that this is a public entity, and that you have decision makers within your organization to make sure that this is a voting process that is always for what is the betterment and the fulfillment of the mission, right? So these things are important. When you have a weak bylaw, what happens is the total opposite of what we just mentioned. You have a lot of chaos, a lot of incohesiveness within your organization. People are fighting amongst each other. People are feeling like favoritisms are happening within the organization. Well, you went with this vote because that's your friend, or you two are, you have cliques here. So this is the in group and this is the out group within a nonprofit organization. It makes no sense. So this eliminates that, because you have a voting system. You have a way in which everyone is treated exactly the same. And what I would suggest is that for startup nonprofits, and for existing, I'm not even going to just say startup, and existing, every board member should have a copy of their bylaws. At each and every meeting, you should have the copy of the bylaws. Your secretary should have it on hand in whatever book they have your meeting minutes. Your bylaws should be in it so you can refer to it at any given time when there's a conflict or there's a discrepancy in something. It's like, hey, let's go back. Talk about, what do we say about this? What does our bylaws say about this? Everyone should be referring. That's your go-to. That's your point of reference, right? So again, it keeps everybody from founder, executive director. Well, the executive director doesn't vote. However, you are at board meetings, so it allows you to be able, again, to follow the guidelines. There's no one above your bylaws. This is what you do. This is what you told the government in order to receive your tax-exempt status, that this is how you were going to run your organization. So it needs to be run that way. Everyone should have a copy of it. Every time there is a transition for your existing organizations where there's a transition period and you're looking now to, bring in and recruiting new board members, each and every one of them should get a copy when you're interviewing and you're making a selection process. Everyone should know what your bylaws are in order for them to be able to say, can I commit to this? The attendance, am I in alliance with how they do things here? Because it's better to know that then than to have someone sitting on the board and have constant turnover. When you don't have strong bylaws, that's what you see, constant turnover. So what ends up happening is you have a one-man, one-woman show, or you have a group of people that's just not happy and not productive, and everyone is frustrated. And then again, the mission goes by the wayside because everybody's in their feelings. So this isn't, having strong bylaws is going to empower your nonprofit organization to move the needle and make sure that the mission is actually being done. We know we need to make this amount of money. You have your board members, everyone on board. Everyone knows what their roles are when it comes to meetings. Everyone knows what committee they're chairing. Everyone knows, what the next step is and what you need to do in the next fundraiser. So everybody's step and lock and step, right? Everyone's on that because you have strong bylaws. Without strong bylaws, you're really asking for trouble when it comes to your nonprofit organization. And if you're struggling right now, that's going to be, as a nonprofit strategist and as a consultant, I always go back to that. I always go back to bylaws. Okay, so let me take a look at your bylaws. I've actually had clients ask me, what is that? So they don't even know what the bylaws are. So again, attitude reflects leadership. So if in leadership, you're not aware of what's in your bylaws, you don't know what the bylaws are, you don't know what's in your bylaws, how then can you conduct and lead an organization in a structured manner when you don't even know what the structure is, right? So bylaws is going to be the first go-to. And then if there's some things that need to be tweaked and amended, bylaws can be amended in order for maximum performance, optimal performance. That's what you want. Again, always for the fulfillment of the mission. Excuse me. So it's really important that you have bylaws. If you have bylaws and you're not sure, are these strong? Are these bylaws, does it entail and have everything that it needs to have? Here's where you can consult someone like myself. Have someone review your bylaws. I actually develop, create bylaws. I actually sit with the founder to go over certain things. When there's a response back that I think is not in the best interest, I give my advice, I give my recommendation, and then of course the founder makes their own decision. But I can assist you in being able to understand, because sometimes when you read bylaws, the verbiage is, sometimes you're like, okay, this is not English here. So having someone be able to actually go through it with you is probably really important. And then what you should do is at least twice a year or once a year, sit down with your board members and review your bylaws. Just say, look, part of the board meeting is we're going to go over bylaws. Make sure that we don't need to change anything or amend everything, and that everyone is aware. Because again, there is natural transition in a nonprofit organization, within its board of directors, because you have tenure, you have terms that are, completed. So you need to be doing this with each and every one. So this is what I wanted to share with you. If you are looking for someone to assist in you being able to either create your bylaws or review your bylaws and make decisions, you can reach out to me at asia@utopianenterprisebiz.com. That's BIZ at the end. Or you can go to my website at utopianenterprisebiz.com, and you can click on development of bylaws, and then we can take it from there for you to be able to, get your organization up and running the way it should, and leading the charge for the information that you need to do that in a manner in which you do that for maximum results, and empowering your organization to fulfill its mission in real time. So that's what I wanted to share with you this Monday. Please take this information and make it beneficial for you, your organization, and your community by implementing it. If it's one of the things that you see that needs to be changed, tweaked, amended, or implemented, do it immediately, because small acts create big impacts. So if it's creating that within the internal infrastructure, imagine what it's going to do externally for the communities that you're looking to serve. So take action if you feel that this is something that you need to do in order to change the trajectory of either the inactivity or unproductivity of your organization. Turn that around. There's still time for you to be able to do that before the new year rolls around. So make it happen for you, make it happen for your organization and for the communities and recipients that you're looking to serve. So that's what I have for you this this Monday. Have an impactful week. Make it impactful. Do something, even if it's just giving a smile or giving a compliment to someone. You never know what that impact is going to be for that person. So stay tuned for next week's content of new nonprofit information that will help you fulfill your mission in real time. Talk to you soon.